Hi everyone, welcome to Third Coast Gaming Impressions. Today's January 10th, 2021. We're episode 14. We're back. I'm joined by Austin Taylor.
Indeed you are.
Hey, we played some video games. We played them together. We played them separately. I'm gonna get a quick hit real fast. So right before we got on, I downloaded and played that Monster Hunter Rise demo that was on the Switch for their new game that's coming out in March, I think, is when it's slated to release.
Yeah, like a week before the March 31st deadline of their games, several of their games no longer being sold.
Yeah, it's a game. I fought this monster. It's called a Mitsusune, I think. Mitsune, that's how you say it. It shot bubbles at me. It's very frantic and chaotic.
Yeah. This is a big bubbly dragon?
Yeah, big bubbly dragon. Very, very... You could hear the strings in the background that are playing. It's like kind of remind me of like Ghost of Tsushima music, that kind of like monster music. So I think they'll do different tracks on the different monsters. Or at least the different areas. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I
couldn't tell
if
I muted it.
Yeah,
okay, cool. That's good. Austin, I'll tell you, it just plays like World. They have not changed this game at all. I can ride a dog though. You have a dog companion that you can get onto. So that was cool.
Don't know if that's gonna be enough for me.
Yeah. The people who are into that game are way into that game. I tried playing it, so I have a wireless like GameCube controller that's made by Hori, I think. And relearning to play Monster Hunter on a GameCube controller was a nightmare for a little bit. So I have the sprint button on, like, you know how there's like the little triggers on the GameCube controller?
Yeah, the buttons.
Yeah, well, doing anything, this comes with buttons above that are super tiny that I have sprint and items on. That was a whole thing, but the dog's cool. So you just hold A down, and the dog will come up behind you, and you'll just auto get onto the dog, and he runs way faster and has infinite sprint instead of like sprinting, using up your stamina, then stopping for a little bit and keep going. So that was pretty cool. There's no new weapons, but yeah, still Monster Hunter. You don't have your slinger like hook, but you have like a grappling hook that's like on a timer that are like these weird bugs or something. Oh, you can ride the monsters now, like even more so. So I'm at this point, I'm like halfway through the fight with Mitsune, and there's a Raytheon, and so I can trap the Raytheon with these bugs, and it let me ride the Raytheon and control it. So I was like mono fighting the Mitsune with the Raytheon, and like a Godzilla style fight, which was really interesting.
Yes, this isn't like in World where like if you get on a monster, all it is an opportunity to deal more damage.
Yeah, and then you'll hop right off after that. But now you're actually like, I have like attack buttons where I could do like a fire breath, or I could swing its tail, or I had a dodge. It was wild.
Wow,
I didn't expect
was
it.
ahead of its time.
Yeah, I'm hoping, because this game has like up to 4-player co-op, as like most Monster Hunters do. So I'm hoping one person can mount the Raytheon, the other person gets on the Mitsune, and you can make them fight each other. I think that'd be a fun twist, because after I dropped the Raytheon, it popped me off of it because it took too much damage, and then I trapped and got on the monster I'm supposed to kill, and I started fighting the Raytheon a little bit as the Mitsune. It was strange. It was cool. I used my old faithful greatsword. I've been rocking it since 2009, I think, Austin, was when I first played a Monster Hunter game.
I mean, sometimes you just need a really big sword.
You do.
You know? Like, you don't need to get fancy with these other weapons that exist in Monster Hunter.
No, like the what I will call the Bloodborne weapons, which is like the switch axe and the
all of those.
the charge shield. Those are for bitches. I'm just here at the greatsword, hitting two buttons over and over again.
Just slapping someone with about 28 odd pounds of steel.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that was my short hit for Monster Hunter. I'm probably gonna pre-order it and play it. I could use a new Monster Hunter. This was making me. I might just re-download World and play like through the campaign completely again, because that's
Yeah,
been like my thing with Monster Hunter is like I've always enjoyed the journey to getting like max gear and having all this stuff, and then after that I always fall off because I'm like, oh, I have everything. There's like nothing left really to do except fight some kind of bigger monsters.
yeah. And so like the structure of this game is like similar to World, right? Where you're like going off on like specific hunts that are timed.
Yeah, yeah. So this one was, I think I had 30 minutes to kill it, and I did one life and killed it. But yeah, you have a hub area, and you go on a quest and you fight one monster or maybe two. The thing that's different about this game is in the older Monster Hunters, when you there you know there's like multiple areas in a Monster Hunter game. Usually there's like 9 areas and they're numbered on the map, and you'll hit a load screen and it'll make you load before you go to the next area. This one is just the whole game. It's just the whole map, like in World, to where you can explore the whole area without a load screen, pretty much, which I'm glad they did. So I remember
Yeah,
having to play the old games, and you're just like, oh, the monster ran off. I have to go sit in a loading screen while I go to the next area.
yeah. So these are. Is this like the only map that you'll be using in this game, or is this just like one of like the other like several maps? Because I know that there are very like different maps in World.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess there'll probably be like 10 maps or something. I think World had about 6 or 7 maps,
Hmm.
not including Iceborne, which I didn't beat.
Okay.
But we played some co-op stuff. I cannot remember what the Remnant from the Ashes DLC was called.
Um. So the DLC we played would have been subject. I believe the number because it's subject and then number. I believe the number is like
2923. There we go.
yeah,
And then we
something
got
like
Swamp
that.
of Corsus too, which is like an expansion for the Corsus area with some new perks and items, I think. But they're on sale, and I think that's the first game we played together was Remnant, because I was just kind of my friend got me into it, and then he bailed on me.
Yeah, and I've been playing Remnant for a while, going in beforehand.
I
Yeah,
I these games are wild to me. Like it kind of came out of left field that like, oh yeah, the people who used to make Darksiders are just making a Dark Souls ish with like when you die, you go to a bonfire and all the enemies respawn with big bosses at the end of them. But it's like a Resident Evil shooter. Like I would say it's closer to Resident Evil than like Gears of War. I mean, you're still dodge rolling and
I
can you do you stick to cover and Remnant? I can't think
I
right
mean
now.
you can right like there are environments where that is unnecessary, specifically like in the early game too. But there are so few environments where you are fighting like a concentrated amount of people with guns in Remnant that I don't think like sticking to cover is. I mean, mechanically, there's no cover mechanic, right? But like you're probably not gonna be sticking to cover in the same way that you would in like a Resident Evil. So a lot of what you're doing is like slowly walking through, seeing enemies, probably like hopping back behind like a corner or something, or just unloading on them if you do enough DPS.
Yeah. So that was that from what we played, it starts you out in like a European looking or like a Midwestern like farm, and you're just kind of running around. Got a couple enemies. Like, this is nothing different.
Yeah, like it
I'm
puts you
sure this
back.
DLC will be fine. And then we get to the original ward, which is like what I would call similar to like the vaults of Fallout, except they're like humanity's last stand instead of like somewhere where people were like getting away from the nuclear apocalypse.
Well, I mean, yeah. So like within Remnant, like the wards are like where people fled to escape the root, which is like a malignant sort of plant like biomass that's like taken over the earth. as we understand it, and like Word Prime is supposedly like the source of that. Certainly the source of like the experimentation of the like the capital L lore stuff that exists in Remnant. That
Yeah,
explains how the root got there.
and that area is wild. Like, I would explain it's like you have a switch you'll hit pretty much, which is against like some, what was that, like a root blob that we were switching. So
Yeah,
it'll basically, I wouldn't say it'll invert the world, but it's like a similar concept where you're going to a different dimension, and then enemies will start attacking you while you're in there. And in your normal state they won't attack you, but we're inverting it to clear these puzzles where there are these blobs we have to shoot and stuff.
yeah. And like the all the other thing to say is like the enemies, like the big heavy enemies that exist in that like sort of dimensional pocket aren't killable, right? So all you can really do is get them to like walk away from you, and then you have to go back to shooting like the little like bulbs that are blocking doors.
Yeah, so you like stun lock them, and then a couple like flying enemies will attack you, and I think you can kill those. And
Yeah,
I think that was neat. I was having a good time. I generally like that game. I wish if to get this game closer to like, let me use like Resident Evil 7 or Resident Evil 2 for example. I think like the world design needs to get pushed forward, but I think the gameplay stuff that they have is spot on. Like I don't maybe it would need just a little bit more, but I hope they have gotten enough funding from putting this out where like Remnant 2 is just going to be a killer game. I'm so excited for when
yeah,
they announce that, if they announce it.
yeah. And I mean, and the thing with like this game's world design is like it's hard to justify putting like that level of detail that you put in like an RE7 into the worlds that you're running into because you might not be getting these instances of this world because like every world is RNG, right? Like is randomly generated among like a handful of set of different instances.
I thought, are they RNG'd? I thought they were handcrafted, but you RNG into the different areas. Like the side quests are all like randomly generated, right?
Well, I don't think objectives are necessarily. So like if you're going into an area where there's an objective, I think that is like the crafted stuff mostly. But like a lot of like random environments, there's like a couple, like there's a handful of stuff, right? Like there's not as much as instances as like a No Man's Sky, right? But there are enough where you can, or it's hard to know what you're going to get when you like roll a new campaign or a new adventure. I
Here,
think
I
Word,
got
I think Word Prime would be the same in every
yeah.
instance, right? But I don't know because after you go into Word Prime, you go into a different location called Rizium, and I don't think that like the hub of Rizium is going to look the same every time like you load into that. It's certainly not with the Corvus DLC because I started going into like the Swamps of Corvus stuff, and now there's just a lot of new areas mixed in with like the older areas that exist in Corvus. So it's hard to know like what you're getting is new and what you're getting is old.
So I'll go ahead and say the way Remnant explains it is that they have a large collection of environment tiles and map templates that are already made, but they will populate the dungeons and side quests and events in each experience differently, along with like the boss spawn at the end of an area. But like the opening of the game is like always the same area, the tile, but your dungeons and side quests are different. Does that sound about
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that sounds about right. Like the hub in like say like Earth adventure mode always like pretty much looks the same because I've gone through so many instances of the adventure mode on Earth. Is usually like the same kind of like starting hub and then like it branches out into several different like side missions where you can either get like the stuff that's going to give you the Tommy gun or the stuff that's going to give you like a necklace.
So yeah, I've been thoroughly enjoying that game. when I say like detail, I would just like I wish the maps had a little more stuff in them. Like I think about like you've played Resident Evil 4, right?
Yeah.
You remember like the house level where it's just like hordes. It's not the house level, but there's like a 2-story house you get to with like Leon and that other guy, and you're being like attacked by zombies on like all areas around it.
Yeah.
Or it's like those some of those areas in Resident Evil 4 are like densely populated, more with like more buildings and more weird stuff. But I guess that game is also more. Well, they're both linear, but I'm trying to think of like.
Yeah, but you're also gonna get like that event every time you play Resident Evil 4, right? Like
Yeah.
you are not going to get all of the same stuff every time you play Remnant.
No, but I think as if this game is generating them enough money, they might put more time into like fleshing out the worlds, because I think there's something missing in like the world design for me. At least like the first there are some areas that are really good. They're clearly better than other areas. Like I think the swamps were underfinished, which is why they kind of expanded it with the Corvus DLC. But like the weird desert area, like I think that's my favorite area. And then you have like the alien spaceship stuff at the end of that. That's really cool too.
Yeah. Yeah, because those are both like critical path things, right? Like Corvus is a completely skippable part of that game,
Yeah.
and the desert planet like is not. So like that's like reasoning behind like why Corvus is like I think in the base campaign like three three or four areas with like maybe like always has like one final boss at the end of that, and there's like maybe like two or three bosses that exist before that.
Yeah, and Corvus probably took us like an hour to beat, like maybe a little more, maybe like an hour and a half.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
whereas
short area.
like the desert planet is like significantly longer.
Yeah. Let's see. What else is on here? Do you want to talk about Cyberpunk a little more, or do you want to talk about Red Dead Online?
Uh, I can get into Cyberpunk
Sure. What's up?
because we're at the point where I finished it. Um, I don't know. Keeping it like out of like spoilers for the main narrative, it's fine. Like Cyberpunk is fine. A technical mess is what I've sort of landed on. But it still like scratches an itch that like I don't know, like I wanted like a good like Fallout game for a while, and like I haven't felt like particularly like I've enjoyed an RPG like this since like New Vegas. And I think like the story ends in a good enough spot to where I can look at it and be like, I think I enjoyed that.
Okay. I had a question.
Yeah.
Does okay, most of the core missions of the game, do you just end up getting into a lot of shootouts with people, or are there other stuff you're doing? And like the last like of the core missions, like how many shootouts do you got?
Well, I mean, a few, like a good few, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a violent game, it's a violent world. But like the thing about like every mission can kind of devolve into a shootout.
Hmm.
But the thing is like there's enough to play with to where you can keep a lot of missions from becoming a shootout, right? Like there's there's a mission where you are trying to infiltrate like a parade, right? And like get on a float carrying a high value target. And what happens there is you have to go in and like eliminate the snipers that are covering this float. And there's enough like wiggle room with how you can operate where you can take these snipers out using stealth. You can take them out by like running up to them with like a big shotgun and just blowing them apart. And but like by the end of that mission, like you're going to get into a boss fight because someone is like monitoring your progress. And like that boss fight can like always be resolved in several different ways, and that just depends on how you deal damage within that game. Because you can either deal damage using like quick hacks or your trusty sidearm, and
What
that's
do you mean
kind of
by
like
you're talking about quick hacks? Does it like drop their health when you're
it's
hacking them
yeah.
like that?
So quick hacks are basically like magic, right? like magic from like a fantasy game. So when you scan someone, you use your scanner, so that's like you holding LB. You have like a list of available hacks that is determined off of like how many points you put into intelligence. Will determine what kind of quick hacks you can use and how much RAM you have, which are basically like mana points that you can use to initiate these quick hacks. Like by the time I finished the game, actually no, before I finished the game, like 20 hours before I got to the end game, I had put enough points into my intelligence and net running abilities where I could basically turn people off.
Huh.
Like
Interesting.
I could basically turn off all their cybernetics in their body, and that would render them unconscious. And that like ability has like a 2 minute cooldown period, so it's not something that I can really rely on in the
Yeah.
middle of like a stealth environment. But I
Did you
can,
get? Sorry, go for it.
what's it? But for the most part, I could just walk around and like there would be a narrative bit where there's like a boss fight happening. I could most boss fights that aren't in like the main game themselves, I could just hack into them and turn off the boss without having to fire a bullet.
Even the bosses you could turn off
Yeah, well, I mean,
after you deal enough damage, or is it just like?
not like bosses that you're gonna find in like the
Yeah.
critical path, but like what counts as boss fights on the side, mainly being the cyber psychos that you can encounter in the world. You can just go into your quick hack menu, like maybe have to lower their like resistance to hacks. You probably don't have to if you have like a really good cyber deck and a lot of RAM, but you can just turn them off and don't even have to like get into a fight, which is really good considering like a lot of those cyber psycho fights are just the pits.
That's pretty cool. Did you end up getting like any type of guns that were like? Did you have any tasers or any like things that would disable people on that end?
Uh, there are no like there are non-lethal melee weapons,
Okay.
right? There are no non-lethal guns, but the thing is you do get a I believe this is a cyberware upgrade that you can have installed onto your optics, which you always have an optic cyberware. Like you visit the Ripper dock in the prologue, and you immediately get like a upgraded optics sensor scanner that like lets you start scanning people and start using quick hacks. And you can put a mod on that makes all of your bullets do non-lethal damage, but you don't get to use like critical hits, right? So you're doing base gun damage, but you're not killing people. And a number of
No.
guns also have like secondary damage where like I had like an energy weapon that could also poison people somehow. And if people died of like the poison damage, they wouldn't die.
Okay. So, and when you say the non-lethal stuff, so you're shooting people, and their body is falling, but it'll say like, I know New Vegas or Fallout had a thing where it'll be like someone is unconscious now.
Yeah. It's like they'll be on the ground, they'll be like sort of writhing in pain, but they won't be dead. Like you put your crosshairs on them, they'll still be red if they were an enemy.
But you're still hitting them with bullets, I guess. I don't
You're
know.
still just
I'm trying
shooting
to.
them.
I guess it's like rubber bullets or some shit.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know.
there's no like real narrative conceit. It's just, hey, you don't have to like kill people. You can still use guns. You don't have to kill people. We're just going to take away all your critical damage, which is
Interesting.
uh, kind of a no-no for me because crit damage was my bread and butter as like I got into that late game.
I might be into that though. Let's talk about Red Dead Online, then I'll get to my Final Fantasy thoughts. Did you play any more of that, or is it just from what we were doing?
I did a bit more. I got a bounty hunting license in Red Dead Online.
Oh, cool. Yeah, you had some gold. We started up, and you had a character already, and you had some gold and some money,
Yeah, I don't remember making that character.
which I thought was pretty funny.
Uh,
That game's alright.
it's it's fine. Like I'll say like within the main world, I think my biggest bummer is that like if I want to do like one of the air quote like critical path missions, I need to matchmake with people, which is not a thing I really want to do. But if I want to do a bounty hunter mission, I can do that by myself, and that's all right. I will say that the fact that they're timed is kind of stupid. And
Oh yeah, I've run into shit where it's just like you're learning some of those bounties, and you're like, you have to like find people sometimes, and you have to follow the trail, and it's the dumbest fucking shit.
yeah, I mean, I'll say like that was probably one of the better missions I did, where I went to like I think it's a lumber mill that I know you visit in the main campaign for like one of their big battle set pieces. And it was like wait for this dude to show up. Now, like I waited for a couple minutes, like okay, the target's here, you got to find him. And I found him pretty much immediately because like there are no small doors there in that lumber mill. So I found him. I was able to like sneak in, immediately tackle him, tie him up without anyone knowing. Problem with that though, you don't gag people in this game. So as soon as I hogtied him, he immediately called his boys in, and they just killed me.
Oh yeah. Are you what was I gonna say? Are you on? You're on the like the aim assist, right? You're not like free aiming people.
Yeah, there's a name. Yeah, I would not free name people in a
Okay, yeah. 'Cause some of my
Rockstar.
friends play free aim. You get a little more experience, but I'm too lazy for it. Yeah. Um. Yeah. People will fucking wreck you in that game sometimes.
Yeah. Well, it's just I was listening to I had like the volume on the game down. I was listening to a podcast, and then like I saw her like my character because like it's this lady who I don't know how she got there. Um, you're gonna find out. I mean, of course, I have too many resources to delete her now, but it's whatever. Um, and I hogtied this dude, and like I hear like some like faint yelling coming from my TV, and I was like, "Is he calling for help?" And then immediately 9 dudes just run into the room I am and just blast me as I'm picking up the target.
Yeah. Man, I go into first person a lot in that game, and I just shotgun people. It's wild. I'm just like bop 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 bop. I'm blasting. As that Danny DeVito meme goes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's kind of the default like thing with Red Dead is you go into a situation 90% of the time you just got to start blasting people.
Yeah. Have you messed with your Deadeye stuff? Because I know you picked up Paint It Black for your ability, and that
Yeah,
thing is really cool. Because as you start leveling it up, your Deadeye shots, because you have like a tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 of Paint It Black, and it costs money to upgrade it. But I'm at the third tier because I had some free vouchers, so I didn't have to buy it. And it'll barely use any Deadeye when you like scope in and hit someone.
yeah. I messed with it a bit. Like I got the marking ability, and like it's helpful when like you're in a tight spot, like in a tight room, and there's people around you, and I can like whip out my shotgun and like one hit dead eye people. I will say it doesn't seem particularly useful at long range, I found, but that's just because like
Yeah,
the
it
game
depends on the
already.
weapon. I think your repeater. I think you have a repeater carbine, right?
No, I bought a bolt action.
Oh, you got the bolt. All right, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and like even then, I'll just say it's of so much easier to just use the ridiculous aim assist in this game to just scope down a dude and just shoot him.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, the thing with the bolt action, the strategy I learned is I will go into Deadeye. It'll mark one X on someone's chest, and I'll shoot, and then I'll go out of Deadeye. So I won't stay in Deadeye and take, and I won't mark people with 2 shots. I always mark someone with just 1 shot, pretty much, and that's been working out pretty all right. And then I got these Mausers, Austin. Did you get the Mausers in the main game?
That's a automatic pistol.
Austin. Yeah, it's a pistol that has like a clip that you load through the top, and
Yeah.
so they have 11 shots, and they are you dual wield those. The game is just broken, Austin.
I don't
I
know.
mean, it's not broken, but it's fun because you're reloading really fast. I'm just like, bup, 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 bup. It's cool.
Can you dual wield pistols in online?
Yeah, yeah. You have to get to level 25, and then
Oh,
it'll
that's
give you
why.
a thing to where you can dual wield. And there's a perk you get that whenever you're dual wielding, you'll have extended range and you'll deal more damage.
Hmm.
That's
Is
pretty
that
fun.
I have an offhand holster, and I was like, okay, cool. Now I can dual wield, and I was like, oh wait, no, I can't pull my second pistol off the horse.
Yeah, you got to be 25.
Uh,
How's the I don't know. I guess you did some bounties and you messed around. That game's chill. I'm guessing nobody bugged you. You didn't really see too many random dudes in the environment.
yeah, I saw a few like people around the post offices and like the big city areas, so like Blackwater, um, and like Saint Denis, but no one, like I was not being chased by other players who saw me during a mission and were like, aha, what if we just ruined this person's day?
Yeah, much like the GTA Online experience.
Yeah, it's not nearly as hostile.
Yeah, and there's some cool stuff. There you get some pretty cool missions later on through the at the end of those main like 7 or 8 missions it gives you. And some of the I don't know if you can access them yet, but the legendary bounties are pretty cool cuz they're like much longer bounties. Like the one I got is where I'm on a train while this guy's robbing it and I have to kill everyone on the train and then stop the train and then take him off and I put him in my bounty wagon that I have. My dumb bounty wagon. That's cool. Well, maybe we'll hop on now that I fucking because I text you on Thursday being like, "Yo, you want to play some Red Dead?" And then my Twitter notifications were off, and I was very
Yeah,
sad.
True just didn't tell you that I was down to clown in
Yeah,
that that old Red Dead.
that's right. We'll do some legendary bounties because those are pretty fun and they're a little longer.
Maybe when
I
it's
played more
when
Final
it's done.
Fantasy VII. Man, I continue to love that game. There is something magical going on with this game, and I just can't put it down, Austin. Eris is hilarious in this game. She is snarky, and she does not give a shit. And whenever Cloud says something, she always has something shitty. Not shitty to say back to him, but she always has some quip she's going to throw at him. It's really funny. Cloud will be like, "Oh, I'll handle this." When you get into a fight, and she's like, "Yeah, and I'm just here supporting you. Don't worry about it, all right?" It's fun.
Yeah, like
I did I finished the Don Corneo missions, and you get to dance as Cloud, and it's very funny. And you're in a oh you're in a dress later, but I got to dance as Cloud, and I got to put Cloud in a dress, so that was pretty cool. Cloud is a very pretty man.
oh yeah, no,
they,
Cloud's beautiful.
they put some work into put Cloud. Did you see any of the Cloud in a dress stuff from when that game came out?
From the remake, no, no, I'm familiar with that sequence through like the original game though.
Yeah. Let me show you how pretty. Open this link. I'm
Oh,
probably gonna use this for the image,
oh,
but
yeah, like I've seen Cloud.
they. But have you seen Cloud in a dress?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay, it's
Like I've
very
seen
funny.
the stills.
Yeah, there's like 3 different dresses you can get as Cloud depending on different actions you take. If you like side with Madam M, who's like the massage parlor lady, and she gives you a hand massage, and Cloud's face like blows up. It's the best. Oh, it's the purple dress from the. Huh. Do you get a? Is it a purple dress in the original game? I don't remember.
Yeah, it's like it's just a like a purple like basically a sheet
Yeah.
is what it looks like in the older game.
And so, what else was I doing? I did squats with some dudes in a gym, and it's like this mini game where you're timed on pressing like triangle, square, X, and circle.
Yeah, it's like a rhythm.
Yeah, and then eventually it doesn't show you the screen, so you're just like haptically tapping as fast as you can. And music continues to be good. There is more fluff or padding in the game to kind of like push out some stuff.
Of
Like
course
I'm in
there
this
is.
train yard and there's ghosts, and I'm like, I guess I'll do this. It's not as cool as like, it's such a dip from the Don Corneo stuff that I'm like, oh, whatever. I'm just gonna fight some dudes and solve some puzzles here, I guess.
Oh yeah, like Midgar in its original like version is like maybe 6 hours.
Yeah, yeah. I wish they had done something else besides this weird ghost subplot, but everything else has been cool leading up to it. I got the pregnant chocobo summon.
Very nice.
Yeah, Tifa's back in my party. Um, t- e- e- Everyone talking to Don. Okay, so there's the part where Don Corneo is picking from one of the 3 of you between Eris, Tifa, and Cloud.
Yeah.
So he picks Cloud, and Cloud's just on the bed being a sassy bitch to Don Corneo, and he's like rolling around laughing in his bed because you're like, oh, I don't care. shut up. And she's like, oh, I love how sassy you are. It's a pretty good moment. There's some humor in this game, which I was surprised by.
Oh yeah,
The voice
there's
acting is a little better.
like the only way
Sorry,
you
what?
can do that sequence is if you make it humorous. Like you can't do like a straight face sequence of that kind.
Yeah, and I think the humor works for me and doesn't feel too cheesy, I guess. It just kind of works. I'm just kind of into this. I'm into it. I'm into it. I'm really excited to get to the infiltration of like the Shinra headquarters and the motorcycle scene. So ready. I might beat this and go buy Final Fantasy 7 and just go play through that. Cuz I remember having a
Okay,
good time with it.
should yeah, seven's really good.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Like I'm not someone who's like worships at the altar of Final Fantasy 7, but like there's a lot that that late game does that is so much more interesting than is really interesting and like done in a way that I don't know how they're gonna do it once they get to that point in this remake series.
Yeah, and
And
there's
I'm a little
this
nervous.
so, yeah, and there's this weird thing going on where it's like Eris knows the timeline is different because that's the main conceit of remake is that something different is changing stuff. And then Sephiroth knows and Eris knows, and she hints at it a little bit, and you're kind of like, she doesn't really. She's like, I don't have time to explain what's going on. She just kind of like changes the subject pretty much when like they were talking to her about it. What is the last? I'm getting into spoiler territory because Final Fantasy VII's been out for so long. What is that last third act of Final Fantasy VII? It's like hunting Sephiroth or something. What's going on?
Yeah, so if we're counting like the third act is like post like Aerith being killed, um, in the original version of that game. So like the final act of that is like Tifa, everyone searching for Cloud, who's gone missing since the events in the City of Ancients. You then like find Cloud on this abandoned island. You under like as you find Cloud, you come to understand who Cloud is,
Ah,
and what his
yes.
connection to Sephiroth is. You then go into like then the world begins to end, right? Because you see the meteor coming. You have a couple of days, like entire land formations are being destroyed due to seismic events, and you get to a point where like the final thing is like y'all go back to like I believe the North Pole, where Sephiroth is like trying to amass the power of meteor, which will destroy the planet, and then you then decide to like use a materia that might save the planet, might not. And in its final thing, you realize also might like what it means by save the planet might like look very different than what you're expecting.
Yeah, I hope the because I know after you leave Midgar, you get it's like an open world game where you have like the car and you're doing the buggy stuff, and you
Yeah,
get the what is Sid's is airship the High Wind? Is it called the High Wind?
I believe so.
So you're doing that stuff. So I hope they get a little into like maybe it's a little like Final Fantasy 15 where you got a car and you're hanging out with the boys and you're just driving around. But you know it's Tifa, Eris, Barrett, and I hope Vincent's just in the main game. I hope he's not like some side character that doesn't have any like voiceover and cutscenes or something. I don't know. We'll see what they do
I
with.
imagine he would be like
Yeah, people love Vincent.
he's yeah, people sure do. I imagine like the second like remake that they're doing is going to be mostly like the open world progression. So you'll probably start off with you going
Yeah,
to the village that you wind up going to. You'll get, you know, first you'll get chocobos, and you'll get a car, then you'll get the uh, plane, then you'll get the airship. Then you'll meet all the companions,
yeah.
Sid, Vincent, Yuffie.
Yuffie, yeah, Kate Sith, Red 13.
Yeah, you're yeah. So you get Red 13 at like the end of this current remake, is my
Ooh,
understanding, because this is like
ooh.
Midgard stuff.
Yeah. I'm excited to go to Cosmo Canyon. I'm excited to do that weird airship where you sneak on and you have to do the salutes and shit. I hope they do something. They'll probably do that. And go into the Golden Saucer. The Golden Saucer section is cool. Just cloud snowboarding. Sick. Into it. All right.
No, we can't do that.
Oh, they're gonna make cloud snowboard 1,000%.
Well, they need to introduce it much sooner than they do.
Yeah,
and like not right after the event that they introduce it.
it's true. All right, well that's my Final Fantasy VII thoughts. We'll come back next week. I'm thinking we could do our Game of the Year stuff next week or the week after if you want to. We could do like a short list. It's just gonna be one podcast. We'll do it, the regular length. We'll just talk about. I was just thinking about talking about what games I played throughout the year.
Yeah, like I don't think
or whatever it is.
We wouldn't do like a big 5-hour argument over what the game of the year is. We're not a publication. We're not gonna buy a company a trophy and then ship it to them.
No, we'll probably both be like, oh yeah, this is probably my game of the year, and you'll be like, oh yeah, this is mine, and then we'll end the podcast.
Oh, we could, right?
Yeah.
We could buy a little dingy little trophy, be like, to Gunfire Games.
Oh yeah. See, the Travis trophy is probably gonna go to Animal Crossing. Spoilers. But I'm gonna make the list, and I'm gonna look at stuff. Who knows? Maybe we'll have some. I'll think of some other categories that are interesting for stuff. My family is fighting outside right now. I don't know what's going on, but I gotta end this podcast, Austin, before it gets worse. They're gonna come in here and be like, "You need to do your laundry," and I'm gonna be like, "No."
No, you just you do it until the machine just can't possibly hold the load, and then you do it.
Yeah. See, I'm gonna take the blue pill and go back into the machine. So we'll see how that goes. I'm gonna be one with the laundry machine. All right. I'm at Travis23 Doyle on Twitter. Where you at, Austin? What's up?
You can find me on Twitter at Beardless2.
Yeah. Maybe I'll get a capture card and we'll play some Hitman 3. Who knows? We'll game share so I can watch you. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, I'd have to buy it on my PlayStation.
Yeah, I think I could game share and you could watch me play and you could tell me how to be a good Hitman.
I wouldn't know. I don't know. You think I'm good at those games? I like them. I don't know good at them.
It's true. Maybe I'll be good at them. I don't know. I don't have patience, but I might have patience. Who knows? All right. We'll catch y'all next week.